this is my part of presentation of automotive industry. And then there is a cover the trends in auto. So I will cover up to around half of the front part, and then Mohamed will cover later part. But I modified somehow my. So there is a trends in automotive industry, and also value chain of U.S. automotive industry. That's why that is covering both of the trends, and then they are talking about service manufacturing. Or you can think about smart service, smart manufacturing and smart service. And then, because I told you about the Industry 4.0 on this topic, and then we will cover on IT application in automotive industry, and then this is Hyundai Kia Motor Company. As a short name, Hyundai Kia Motor Company is a manufacturing plant. Right. So this is trend in automotive industry. This is very similar to my presentation before in Industry 4.0 and e-business. We will see only on automotive industry, focused on automotive. I can start from here. The customer power is increasing comparing to suppliers' power. So it's becoming more customer or buyer's market rather than seller's market. Right? So global information access by customers. They can, or as a person, I can access most of the automakers around the world. So I can buy different auto cars from internet, and mass customization. This is build to order. So based on my order specification, requirement, or options, you can say, they start their manufacturing. Build car for me. Right? That kind of thing they are saying, build to order. They are using in automotive industry. Or order to delivery. Order to delivery is their target is 5 days from the order. So based on options I made, or based on my contract with the seller or in market, they manufacture or they're based on my order and option, and deliver by 5 days globally, not only in Korea. That is their target or goal. Globalization in growth in emerging market. Emerging market means advancing or developing countries rather than developed countries. It means in Korea, say Hyundai Kia means means China market, India market, or South America, or Middle East, or something like that. That market is growing faster than established market. Also, Russia is another good market for Hyundai Kia. And FTA is a free trade act, something. So that helps to exporting cars around the world. And then build cars where demand is. This means they establish a manufacturing plant where the market is big. So that Hyundai Kia has a plant in China, in India, in East Europe, and Middle East too. I saw one in Turkey when I visited Turkey. So that is make car where the market is. So that is another globalization situation or trend. And new technologies coming, low emission vehicle, so there is a pollution problem. New energy, say electric cars, popular now, and additional functions, something like IT, technology and navigation and auto driving. Auto driving is another additional function. Information technology, value chain, restructuring, we'll see in the slide later. So value for Hyundai company or value for customers, that is restructuring, changing. Respond effectively to market demand. Market is related to the customer. Customer have a power, so you should be more flexible to the market demand or customer demand. And electronic business and electronic collaboration. And competition and M&A, OEM. What is the full name of OEM? Can you remember? OEM? Original equipment manufacturer. Right? I told you that Nike or does not have any plant. Apple also doesn't have a plant for iPhone. Right? So they are all outsourcing. So that kind of thing is OEM produce year-to-year cost reduction target. That is the suppliers. Suppliers are pushed to reduce their cost every year by 3% or 5%. And global light vehicle, because of the competition, global light vehicle excess capacity, overcapacity, overproduction is 24 million. Light vehicle means heavy vehicle is another, that is something like a truck or bus. But light vehicle is for passenger cars, right? But there is an extra overcapacity, so that is reason for competition. 2009, because the original slide is coming from around this year, light vehicle is global G6 is a big six country, that is 78% market share. This is a market share. And G10 is a big 10 country or big 10 manufacturer is 95% of market share. That means only big 10 companies can survive in the future. That is another reason. So smaller companies not easy to survive. Supplier collaboration, outsourcing, and modular design and production, and partnership and collaboration. That is a big change. Because of the outsourcing, we should also talk about modular design. Because in old days, say Rouge factory of Ford, they make every components of car inside the factory. But now outsourcing, so bigger modules are outsourced, including engine and chassis and aircon box, aircon system. So that the modular means functional module, the complete set of say aircon system is outsourced, and then just bring and assemble. There is a trend. So this is a U.S. auto industry, a value chain. Income means revenue, how much money they earn from the market, total money. But they are saying total money comes from manufacturing and used car dealership and insurance something. But they invest that profit is coming only from 15% from manufacturing itself. But they found that lease, rental, gasoline station, insurance and repair and rental and parts, that gives you more higher. So they found that more profit comes from after sales market rather than before sales, say manufacturing. So in old days, say Ford Rouge factory 100 years ago, they are only get profit and revenue comes from manufacturing 100 years ago. But nowadays, automotive companies more concerning about after sales market because they can get more profit out. So 85% of profit of the whole industry comes from the after sales market. That's why they are saying service manufacturing or smart service or smart manufacturing rather than manufacturing itself. They need to more concern about after sales or after service. We usually say AS market, right? After sales market. After service or AS, right? AS is originally from after service. After service. So this part is more important than before. So in a business model of 21st century, they are saying service is more important. So extend the conventional business model by IT and create new service for the life cycle of driver and car. Then service, life cycle service rather than only manufacturing. Right? So this one is a conventional business model of automotive industry. R&D, procurement, production is most important. Logistics, marketing, sales, and after service. But now this part is only smaller in here. Right? And the changes are customer relationship, online shopping mall, and procurement production is old ones, and financial services is a rental, monthly payment or lease rental, right? And communication network and navigation services. Those are new opportunities and changes because of the IT. So how can they use IT strategy in automotive industry? The competition comes from international collaboration and cost structure saving is important, and supply chain through part suppliers, and also time to market is important. You can think about the smartphone. New models are coming, right? And Galaxy has a problem with the battery, but iPhone, I saw that they have some noise problem. New iPhone. And then Huawei of China, they bring low price iPhones to Korean market. But the problems are coming because they are trying to make new models in the market earlier than the competition. That creates a problem. So that time to market is very important rather than cost or quality. So you see, and CTQ is three most important items for competitiveness. Is a cost, time, and quality. That is three most important items for competition. But nowadays, time is more important than before. Among three, time to market is more important. So you should be reduce time to developing new products. Customer relationship and manufacturer to customer order. So build to order or order to delivery. That is based manufacturing based on custom order. So that we can say mass customization. And information management and knowledge management. And then profit sources, value chain, that is important. So IT is used for these kind of new trend. So they use global communication portal, process innovation tools, supply demand process innovation, and customer call center, customer relationship management, order to delivery, build to order, or business data warehousing, and IP, intellectual property, knowledge management system, and then market shares. Those are new IT technology is used for automotive industry. So in automotive industry, I guess Mohamed will explain a little bit more on details. So that the conventional work, but new work is customer relationship management and supply chain management. This is customer. This is supply of components or modules, outsourcing, and supply chain. And then in-vehicle information system is something like a navigation or service that they call centers. Sometimes they are used call centers. And virtual engineering system, so that they use product design and process design. And sales to order, order to delivery, delivery to repurchase. So this is a dealership and retail system. And also they need to have a diagnostic services. So these are all new trends in IT in automotive industry. So there are so many short names, but that will be covered by Mohamed, I guess. The Hyundai Kia Motors company, they are trying to e-manufacturing. It is correspondence between e-business and e-manufacturing. So process innovation and integration for e-business of e-manufacturing. And also they are talking about life cycle of product development, production, sales and logistics and after service. And this part is business to customer. So this side is customer, sales and after service market. And this is B2B for supply chain management. So part suppliers, that is inside company, not open to public part. This is for public customer relationships. So customer market analysis and production customer life cycle management. Oh, this is not showing. I should change the color. And e-marketing, navigation, remote car control, internet order delivery notice, and parts supply sales. And knowledge management, quality management, supply chain, order to delivery, enterprise resource planning, customer relationship management, product lifecycle management. Those are softwares. They are used inside companies. And logistics suppliers, distribution, supplier chain, and real-time supply demand plan, global communication. Those things are new terminologies are used for companies. Okay. And Hyundai Kia e-manufacturing model, this is IT infrastructures. So strategic enterprise management is coming, starting from B2C and B2B. B2B side is supply, components or outsourcing part suppliers. This is for customer side. And that is inside company. So B2 enterprise. And PLM, ERP, MES is a main softwares. Under that, there are more. And left side for the customer relationship management is here. and supply chain management is here. For the supplier side, this is for customer side, and this is inside company. There is a product development, and this is a management side and costing and financial, and this is a production plant floor. And under that, this is a quality and knowledge management, and infra, there is a internet something, like cabling. All right, there is another one. So this is process innovation for production development, and that gives you design and body and powertrain and analysis part, and PDM and collaboration data. This is inside a company, and BOM is a bill of material. That is a assembly tree or parts list for assembling a car. Right? So there is a material production and planning and sales and after service. And this is a digital assembly and production center and partners. This is part suppliers. And among them, this is a PDM. PDM is similar to PLM, product lifecycle management or product data management. So that is a core part inside the company. And then outside is supply chain and customer relationship. So this one is overview of the whole IT applications, but the next slide is more about this inside the company. I should change the colors for more readability. All right, that's it for my part. Any questions? No questions. Okay, so we have a schedule for question. Who is in charge of today? Yubin. All right. So you have a time. Okay, how can I proceed? We can go on to Mohamed or it's just a break for project team up? Which one is better? After Mohamed? Okay. Then you can go on Mohamed. Right? Okay. Right. Oh, this. Yes. You need this.
Okay, thank you. So just as a disclaimer before I start, I'm not really an expert in this field. I'm just a student in this class, so I hope you guys can benefit something from this presentation. So so the professor stopped at explaining some of the IT services like customer relationship management or product lifecycle management, ERP, MES, SCM. All of these are different names for management, like management components of the company, as well as some software that is used to support the management. So I'm going to start with what strategic enterprise management entails. So typically, when we mention strategic management, there is like sense of long term. So we're making big decisions for the whole company, like analyzing or planning or managing the business value chain or managing the suppliers, the market demand, the pricing, watching competitors, what they do, and maybe keeping track of collaborators if there's new suppliers in the market that we can use. So this sense, like this holistic view of the business, setting some goals and metrics for the business to follow. So we might want to set some like cost reduction goal in the next 5 years, something like that. watching the financial and non-financial resources, making sure that we have enough resources, we're not short in money, or the machines are failing too often, so maybe we need to replace them. IT strategy is also important. So these days there's a lot of new technology which can be used to make more money. So again, this is important for the future of the business. So it's part of the SEM and any new initiative that the business may want to start. So new management style or building something new or entering a new market, all of these are strategic decisions that can be made. So to make these decisions, you need a lot of data. So a data warehouse is basically the databases that we have. And I made the statement here that data is the eyes with which we see ourselves as well as the environment. So without the data, we're blind. We have to keep track of data and analyze them and then use them to make decisions to see if it's more profitable to do something or not. So human brains can be considered like limited and volatile data warehouses. Customer relationship management is another like big word, and what it's basically about is trying to capture the needs of customers to help satisfy it to the best we can. So there's a lot of communication channels that can be used with the customers, and then this communication can be recorded or documented in databases, and then we have other databases like the product or the orders or the payments, or even like the social network of the customers. If they have a profile, then we can use their Facebook information, their contacts and so on, to either do like target marketing, so we can recommend some products to them, or just overall capture what they need from the product so we can use it in the product development part. So again, this has a lot to do with like storing data for the customers and trying to use it to satisfy the demand better. After sale is another part of customer relationship management. So when they buy a part, they're still customers. So they're not like, they don't stop being customers. So you can still provide some services to them, like diagnosis if there's something wrong with their product, or if some spare parts need to be replaced, or these services after the sale process, they can be provided. That's one part. Another part is the feedback. So we might want to like consider, for example, some faults or some errors in the product, and then through this feedback channel, we can modify the design to address the problems in the product. So again, this is part of the after-sale process. So Professor already talked about this, process innovation for new car development. Supply chain management. So let me just go back quickly to this here. So we have the customers, we have the suppliers, and this is inside the business, inside the factory. So I talked about this, and typically like supply chain management people, they like to refer to all of this as supply chain management. So they like to refer to this as external supply chain management and this as internal supply chain management, or logistics management. So managing how the parts go from which machine to which machine, and this internal logistics of the business, and all the raw materials and stuff like that. So I'm going to address supply chain management like this whole block here. And yeah, so as you can see, nowadays supply chain management is very complicated. We have the orders coming in, and this order is part of global demand that we need to satisfy, or the company needs to satisfy. And then this demand is satisfied through some production plants. So production needs some raw materials coming from suppliers, and then these raw materials are being processed, and then the end products are being made, and then they're being distributed. So these are like the warehouses or distribution channels. And there's a lot of logistics involved to make sure that we deliver the product, the right quantity of products, of the right product to the right customers, and within the time limit that we're given. So all of this needs logistic management, and logistics or supply chain is they're usually two synonyms in this context. So I took this from a supply chain management course, and basically they like to define supply chain management as a set of approaches utilized to efficiently integrate suppliers, manufacturers, warehouses, basically the whole process, so that merchandise or products are produced and distributed at the right quantities. So there's a sense of demand quantity, to the right location. So we might want to transfer or transport it to Korea, to China, to Middle East. So we need we have a sense of location, and at the right time we have a time limit that we need to satisfy, and we need to reduce the cost to minimize system-wide costs, because cost is what makes us competitive, and at the same time satisfying service level requirements. This is like quality. So if the product is not of high quality, then it's useless. So there's external supply chain or logistics management, which is like procurement, getting all the raw materials and the components that we need from outside, outsourcing, and then delivery or distribution. So after we make the products, we need to distribute them around to our customers or clients. And there is some internal supply chain or logistics or operations management. And this is, again, about managing the factory floor and about getting the raw materials from the warehouses and then making the parts and then sending out the products again to the warehouses. So it's about inside the business itself. And this uses many tools, but some of the tools used are ERP systems, MIS systems, MES systems, and I'm going to explain something about these here. So before I move to that, there's some challenges in supply chain management. I'm going to quickly cover that. So these days, supply chain is very global in the sense that some parts can be coming from countries, and then they need to be assembled in a country, and then they need to be sent out to other countries for sale. So there's a very global sense, and we need to integrate all of these together. And we live in a dynamic world, so things are changing. Companies are going out of business. New suppliers are showing up. New IT technology is showing up. So we might want to use this to our advantage. And there is uncertainty in the sense that maybe some machines may fail, and we didn't expect them to fail. Maybe workers may not show up. Maybe raw materials may not arrive at the right time. And even other uncertainties which we can never predict, like natural disasters. And this is an example of a 2011 flood in Thailand. And this part of Thailand has many, or had many, external hard drive, like hard disk drives, drive manufacturing companies or plants. And this is, again, a picture of people running out of the factory because of the flood. And almost all the parts in the stock, they could not function after that because they were filled with water and they could not tolerate the water. So this actually, right after this incident, so many companies had a drop in production, and the prices increased of the hard disk drives in this period. So again, this shows the dynamic sense and the global sense of supply chain. ERP, in short, ERP is about, it's actually this, enterprise resource planning. So we want to plan for the resources we will need in the company. So resources could be the raw materials or the spare parts for machines, or even human resources, maybe the financial resources that we need. So all of this goes into the planning of what resources we need. And we plan for the resources based on the orders that we have or the demand that we need to satisfy. So we have, let's say we need to make 100 cars. So 100 cars require certain resources, and this is what ERP is about. And then once we know the resources we need to outsource some of them, or maybe even make some of them internally. And so we interact with the SCM, we interact with the marketing or the demand side. And yeah, so that's basically what ERP is. We want to plan for the resources. So after we have, assuming we predict the demand for the future and we have all the resources that we need, we already have the plan and the resources come in time, so we are ready to start production. There is the question of which parts to make first and how to schedule the production. And we have different orders with different deadlines, and we need to schedule those within limited resources. We cannot have so many machines. We only have limited machines. So scheduling and managing the factory floor is more recently done using something called manufacturing execution system. And modern manufacturing execution system has a lot, depends a lot on optimization and simulation. So I come from industrial engineering department, and I took this from a simulation class. So typically they first make some plan or some schedule using some optimization models or heuristic algorithms. So we have the deadlines, we have the production quantity, we have the machines. It's all this input to our algorithm, and then we need to figure out a schedule. This schedule may or may not be optimal because of all the uncertainty that we have. So typically they do online simulation of the factory. So they run the plan in the virtual factory, and they see if it will work within all the uncertainties. So there's random variables that they sample from distributions, and then they see if the plan successfully implements or not within the time period. And we need to start from the current factory state. So initialize the simulation based on the current factory state, and this needs a lot of data. So we need an information system to capture the factory state at any point in time. And then we can take this state, we put it in the simulation, we run the plan, and we see if it's good enough or not. So random variables need to be assumed to be sampled from certain distributions. We need to assume the parameters of distribution. Sometimes the simulation needs to be calibrated. This kind of model of thinking is becoming popular especially in the electronics fabrication industry. So I know this is automotive kind of slides, but I just got this from some references. So there's simulation-based planning or scheduling for electronics fabrication industry. So yeah, I mean, after we have the production plan, we just go ahead and implement it, and maybe if something happens along the way, we need to be ready to change the plan, and all of this is part of the manufacturing execution system. Another kind of big word is knowledge management, and this is actually too big to cover in one slide or even a few slides, but yeah, I mean, as you can see, there's a lot to do with decision support. So we have data. We already gathered some data, and we need to use this data to make better decisions. Or we have some knowledge about the company, and we need to somehow share this knowledge efficiently. So this sounds too vague, so I'm just going to cover a few points in knowledge management, and actually 3 of them. So there is knowledge discovery, there is knowledge modeling, and there is knowledge sharing or search. These are the 3 main ones I will focus on. So knowledge discovery from data is about basically finding meaningful patterns in data. So data can be too overwhelming. We can have too much data to see, and we cannot read it all. So unless we have some techniques, which these days they're data mining techniques or machine learning techniques, to analyze the data and to come up with some interesting patterns that we can visualize, that we can think about as humans, and use these meaningful patterns or interesting patterns to make good decisions. So part of this is, for example, to use the customer social networking data or the previous purchases to recommend some products. So this also goes under knowledge discovery. So we're discovering the interest of the customers based on similar profiles of other customers, or based on maybe the contacts and the peer pressure coming from his friends. So maybe he will be interested in what they're interested in. Other examples, this is an open question for research, and machine failure, repair data, we have a lot of data, and how to use this data to best serve the business interest is an open question. It allows decision makers to benefit from the data to, by discovering these patterns, allows for target marketing, as I mentioned, and allows for the simulation. It also helps with the MES, because we can discover patterns in the data and help us make more realistic models for the factory. Okay, second point is knowledge modeling. So this one is simply about being able to objectively describe your knowledge. So you may know something, he may know something, I may know something, but to communicate it together, sometimes there's a lot of effort going into this. So the idea is, if you can draw down your knowledge and I can draw down my knowledge, and then we all speak this drawing language, then we can easily communicate together. So drawing language comes in different forms. So there's business process modeling, many languages for this, but there's basically you want to model the process, what's typically done, all the best practices in the company. So when a customer comes in, what should a salesman do, for example? So there's a process that represents the best practice. Or a manufacturing company, how it should operate. The value chain is a process in of itself. So modeling this and having it there documented and ready for sharing and ready for improvement. So maybe one person can take part of the process and improve it, and another person can take another part of the process and improve it. They don't have to talk to each other, but they can all see the model and use it. Semantic modeling of some more technical models, so CAD models or simulation models. I think there's a lot of research these days about ontology and how to explain what the CAD models do and what each part of the CAD model does. So again, this falls under knowledge modeling. Model-based system engineering is another trend in industrial engineering. And they use and this new language called System Modeling Language, or the IBM alternative called Rhapsody. Again, it's about modeling your system, how the company operates and what the company is made of, and any kind of system, even a car, can be modeled using any modeling language. So what it consists of and so on. Probably one of the oldest semantic modeling techniques is the UML, and it's mostly used in the software industry. So software people model the software semantically so that we can understand what the software does without reading the code. So again, this falls under semantic modeling. Knowledge sharing and search. So again, if we have a lot of modeled knowledge, we might need a way to share this knowledge and even to search it so we can reuse it in the future. So someone who doesn't know it can search something and then it pops out to him and he can read or he can gain this knowledge. So there's also work in the semantic web and ontology or semantic search engines. And yeah, so there's other kind of relevant parts to knowledge management, but I wanted to cover these three. So data collection, knowledge discovery, knowledge collaboratively. So to do collaborative work, you need some supporting IT services, and this is typically termed groupware. So I just found and we have the SEM, which sometimes is assumed to entail the ERP and so on. So I try to cover as much of this as I can. Finally, as I mentioned, we need a lot of groupware, we need a lot of technology to communicate. So this is done using the internet, using databases. You know, there is so much technology out there, either already developed or still being developed, to help communication and to help sharing of data. So I'm not really much of an IT person, so I'm gonna just try and skip over this quickly. So another interesting IT perspective is something called enterprise application integration. And what this does is it tries to take all these software systems individually used in the business. So maybe the sales department uses some software, the design department using other software. So these software don't talk to each other. So if there is a way to make the output of one software compatible with the input of another software and they can like talk to each other, that would be better, because then we can maybe only keep one database. So we can have one main database and then all the softwares take from that database. Or if we have, like, for any reason, we can have some data coming back and forth. So making those specialized software to make the other software talk to each other is what EAI is about. So how to integrate all the applications together. And yeah, that's as much as I know about this. Telematics, again, that's about communication mostly, as far as I know. So there's emails, there's radio, TV, all these communication channels. They all give you data or information, and all this can be stored in a database and then used in the business somehow. So conclusion is we cannot make good business without IT. Process innovation is important because IT is new, so we need to renovate our process to make sure that we involve IT in it. And this will help us become more globally competitive. So e-manufacturing is a friend, basically, for us, but only if we choose to make one. Sounds too fancy. Anyway, offline together with online customer, supplier, partner, employee connections. There's the same point. And yeah, the idea is to bring down the cost, bring up the quality, bring down the time. So this CTQ kind of concept. If we can improve any one of those, we're becoming more competitive. So thank you. Any questions?
What is B2B?
Oh, okay. I believe that it's an interface between businesses, but again, I'm not like much of an IT person. I didn't actually check this part. But yeah, I believe it's business-to-business interfacing. So actually there's like some case studies in supply chain management that mention about collaboration between or sharing data between the manufacturer and the supplier. So if the supplier can have access to the sales information of the manufacturer, then the supplier can predict the demand of the manufacturer before it actually shows up. So before the manufacturer wants to get any supply. So that way the supplier can be more responsive. So probably, but I'm not sure if that's what this slide is about. It's if the supplier can have access to the data of the manufacturer, then it can be more responsive, so it can provide better service to the manufacturer. So this kind of interfacing between the database of the manufacturer and the database of the supplier. That can be what it means. Am I right here? Maybe the professor can correct me if I'm wrong.
I guess it's interface or integration.
Right, right. So, yeah, I hope that answered your question. Again, I'm not an expert in this, I'm just a student, and I'm trying to help with this because professor is assigning it to us.
So in page 16, I think I mentioned the supply chain management.
Yes,
So,
this one?
no, this one?
This one?
Supply chain management.
This one?
There we go.
Okay.
So you mentioned that there must be integration
Yes.
that happened in this process. So can you explain more about how the integration goes in this process?
Right, so integration is about bringing things together, right? So, like, for example, we can, again, I mentioned about the global sense. So whenever you have global, you have distribution of tasks. So supply comes from one country or from some countries, and production happens in some countries, and then assembly happens in another country, and sales happen in another country. So how to integrate all of this together? So how to make it feel like we are still being in the same space without being in the same space. So whenever you make you don't feel the logistics basically, you don't feel the time delay because it's too efficient, because the production starts whenever you expect it to, and you have the raw materials whenever you expect them to, so the factory does not feel this delay. And bringing all this together needs a lot of logistics management to make sure the logistics is very efficient. And yeah, that's pretty much what I meant by integration. So how to integrate different entities in different parts of the world to streamline the process, basically. Or even like how to use collaborators. So different suppliers, maybe like suppliers can show up, or some companies can be working closely to our company. So for example, in the smartphone industry, we have Android is working closely to like Samsung, for example. So Android is like software and Samsung is like hardware, and then they work closely. So they are kind of collaborators here. And integrating them together, again, that's part of the integration, I mean. So integrating with yourself and integrating with collaborators, with suppliers, this concept of bringing people together or bringing things together. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, I've heard that there are some kinds of integration, like vertical or horizontal
Right,
integration.
right. So, okay, you're talking about, this is like management style. So, so yeah, I mean,
Actually, I don't know how the vertical and horizontal.
Right. So this is back to here. So horizontal integration or horizontal kind of, they call it like flat, not flattening, but basically communicating through. So we have this value chain, we have the sales, we have the marketing, and we have the design here. And we have the like production. So if design people can have access to marketing information downstream, they're not waiting until they design and then they produce and then they sell and then they find no sales. So they don't wait until then. They get some information from downstream and they use it upstream and so on. So this is also, you can consider it part of integration, but I think there's another word for it. But anyways, this is typically referred to as horizontal collaboration or integration. Vertical is slightly different because vertical needs a sense of hierarchy. We have the strategic management and then we have the worker floors. So giving more power to the lower people and less power to the higher people, that's typically like vertical. They call it flattening the organization. So we don't have many levels and decisions don't have to be taken at the top. They can be taken at the bottom, and this is like more management style. I'm not sure if this is what is meant by, probably that's not what I mean by integration here, because I never thought about this when I wrote the word down, but yeah, I mean, you can think of different meanings, I guess. Any more questions?
charge of this discussion. My question is two. The one is, there is two types of industry. One is for the specific customer, like shipbuilding or the plant company, and the other is for the public, like smartphone company or the mobile automobile company. And my question is, so if we apply the IT technology to this kind of to company, and so what do you think about the differences between two companies?
IT technology application.
Yeah. For example, there is we learned about SEM or CRM, AS, PLM, SEM. What is important in each company?
I think aspect of PLM in shipbuilding and plant, there is few change in their manufacturing, so they manage their design or CAD data, integration, and for example, pump, pipe, pump, like one module, I think, and for smartphone and car, I have no idea.
But once they change the design, they can make a huge production. But in case of shipbuilding or the ocean plant, the customers' need is to each product they will be changed.
What I think,
Yeah, I think for the IT information technology, I think in these two types of industries, so for like smartphone, because it's more simple, like compared with the shipbuilding and even car manufacturing. So in this process, I think the process like IT like technology, the information technology like process innovation is more important because for the smartphones and even for like there are a lot of parts, but it can be they can be easily like outsourced even in other countries, even for the mass production. So just you have mentioned, you just modify some parts, and it can be easily manufactured in other factories or even the other countries. But for shipbuilding, this process, because the shipbuilding is very complicated, so even if you modify some parts, it's very hard to make a mass production. So in this process, I think the big difference in shipbuilding and smartphone is the digital process.
Digital process?
Yeah, digital process.
Yeah,
Because
digital
in
process.
smartphone manufacturing, all of the parts are very small and it can be easily made. So even for the supply chain management, like for the Nike, just like Professor mentioned, Nike, and they don't have the factory, but they can make any kinds of like shows and other like clothes even around the world for like shipbuilding and car manufacturing. The supply chain management is more challenging than those small smartphones.
types we're talking about is the BTO, which the professor mentioned, build to order, and the build to stock. That's the other type we have. So smartphones are just making stock, and then they assume the stock will be sold. But the BTO is more like they're waiting for the order to come, then they're manufacturing for the specific order. So I think, IT is a general word, so it depends on where you want to apply it. So if we take the customer side or the customer relationship management side, then IT can be used to capture the needs of the customers. So BTS, they try to capture the needs of the customers using like surveys, or they just assume that this feature will be cool, so why not put it, and then customers will buy it. So again, if they can somehow capture the needs of the customer better, using IT, that would be great. For the BTO, the order is all about customizing the product, right? You still didn't manufacture anything, so you have all the options to change the product if you can. So again, how to make sure the customer gives you what they need without involving in too much technical details. So bridging this technicality, I think that's a challenge, and maybe IT can be used to solve it too. I'm not sure. To automate the process. So we have the needs of the customer, and then on the other side we have the technical product which can be manufactured. So I hope that was useful.
So that is for the smartphone or automobile company.
Yeah.
So what do you think about the shipbuilding company? What is important for them?
Again, similar. Like at the end of the day, you want to sell the product, right? So you want the customer to be happy about the product, and if you didn't make the product yet, then you want to find out exactly what the customer needs, and then you can use this knowledge to design your product in a better way, or make a better design for your product for this specific customer. So it's about mass customization. For shipbuilding industry, you don't even have, I don't think you have the mass concept, because there's not as many ships being sold as there are like smartphones or even cars. Cars is like more, yes, but yeah, it's a similar answer. If we take the customer's point of view and how IT can be used in the customer CRM part, but IT can be used in other parts too. So IT is general, I think.
I think the shipbuilding, there is so many materials in there.
Yeah.
So they have to communicate with other companies, the B2B.
Yeah.
So many companies, they are collaborate. So the material management is big deal to them. So I think KLM or MES is important to them.
But I think finally, the product will be sold to the customers. So, although like a B2B happens in the middle, but finally the B2O, the business to B2C, because the B2C is more important, and like a shipbuilding, and you don't need to consider much about like a mass production, and even for like Samsung and even like Daewoo, the shipbuilding companies. Like a year-round like production is around I guess maybe more than 20 or 30. So it's more like a custom-oriented process. And so in this process, I think we have to focus on how to use the IT to business, B2C, or even to O2B. Order to delivery, and if because there are not so many customers, and the customer the satisfaction is more important, and like for us for the smartphone or like a very light industry. So in this process, information like IT can be used as a like a tool or even a medium to improve the communication, and even for like a mass production process. business to business, like a smartphone, and you don't know who's your customers, because there are a lot of people who are willing to waiting for your product, and so you don't have very exact objectives. So you only your focus is how to like use IT to reinforce your process and to make your product be more like attracting and more appealing. Yeah, this is your objective. That's what I'm thinking about.
Okay. Then my next question is how do you think about 10 years later trends of automotive industry? 10 years.
So I can explain company, but I guess in this trend, car company, company buy more electronic components. So I just research. These days they support advanced driver assistance system, which is a sensor and which is the automatic driving system. So as time goes by, the car company will more focus on electric parts as Tesla developed electric cars. So also another case is more major component company will be preferred by major car company, and they will try to reduce the platform states. And I search
Platform states.
number of platform. For example, in case of GM, these days of 27, and after 20 years, they want to make just 4 platforms to reduce to time. Also, another example is Ford. These days they have 29 platforms, but in the future they want to make just 8 platforms. I think the electronic components and the size and the number of platforms is important in the future.
Okay. Ungsig, what is your opinion?
I think customer can select more option. Like customer select an engine and like frame, also frame, and so on. Maybe more customized car will emerge, I think.
I think maybe customize is important to future. So for customize to customer, for that thing, that kind of company will be created. So if I want to make something, and I order to customize company, and they will design, and then they give that kind of information to the manufacturing company. So that kind of process will be okay.
The company can offer that service, I think, like other company.
But some kind of creative venture company can do that.
Yeah, I think this can be done for other products, not just for automotive. So bridging the technical side. So they can do that well. And they can give the company what they need to manufacture. And they can listen from the customers and try to bridge the gap. Yeah.
Okay, good. Time is right. One thing I want to ask you for discussion with us, you can please make a report out of your discussion session. Summary, 1 minute, so every time make a summary of, you don't need to have a long report, say 1 or 2 pages, just to remind for us, a discussion on it. Yeah, the first question about two types, but there are so many types.
Yeah.
You can make a very different. But this is a big and complex question, so we can continue on this